The following program is a SUTV production. The views expressed are not necessarily those of Salisbury University, the University System of Maryland, its regents, administration, officers, employees, or representatives.
Good evening. Welcome to the Never Ending Sports Debate. I'm David Cabrera.
I'm Matthew Forney.
And I'm Tunde Banjo.
All right, fellas, let's get into it. So we got to talk about the abysmal Redskins and, their season. And, the playoff chances is pretty much decimated yesterday by the Giants, 24-17 loss. Just a bunch of things that went wrong for them. So, fellas, they're probably going to be a giant of people of the roster. So where should the Redskins start?
Well, I think that what they should have done is tried to, when they originally traded for RG3, is not giving away around 2 first-round picks. Try and craft it where they gave away other picks, because I believe the first round is the most, crucial thing. It's the most talented players get drafted there. Usually most of the time the top, the first round is granted the most prestige. You want to be that top pick because you have the most caliber coming out of college. They should not have given away this year's pick because it's turning out to be a top 5 pick right now if the season ended today. But they need to figure out what they need to do, because their O-line at times looks good, at times doesn't. And then along with their D-line as well. They can't get any pressure on the quarterback at all. And, maybe they need to go back to the 4-3 instead of playing this 3-4.
I definitely think that's one of the things is the defensive side of the ball. They need to switch back to, the old scheme, because right now it's not working and our cornerbacks are getting exposed because we can't get any pressure. Having Arakpo and Kerrigan out of their natural element, which, putting them on the line would suit them better than having them at linebacker positions. You have Fletcher for that. You have Perry Riley Jr. for that. Put these guys where they belong. And also, with the draft picks, it's a hit or miss. You can be a number one. You can be in the number one. You can be projected to go number 1 or a first-round pick and not pan out. We've seen that with a lot of Al Davis' pick in Oakland. But I think the Redskins did what they needed to do in getting RG3, because they needed a quarterback first and foremost. You need to build there. You can't be lucky all the time, and you might end up with a Ryan Leaf, and he does absolutely nothing for your organization. Or you get lucky and you get Peyton Manning. But, to say that you have to pick from the first round, we look at Tom Brady. He wasn't a first-round pick.
6th round.
We look at Terrell Davis, Hall of Famer. He wasn't a first-round pick. So you can – it's a lot of work that goes into it, but it doesn't always pan out as you hope it would. So they did what they had to do to get their quarterback. Now they just need to put better players around him. Garcon is good, but you need more.
They need another outside threat, because you can't have Garcon play the outside. And Santana Moss, he's a great receiver. He's got good speed, but he's more, and with his age now and his prime that's left, in the years he has left, is more suited, I believe, for the slot receiver position, where you can go across the middle and, catch those quick little 3-yard slants and then, run for 10 yards or,
like Wes Welker.
Make plays. Yeah, exactly. Like he's the Wes Welker prototype in Washington. They need to go out and get that other big name receiver. Maybe this free agency, go after Hakeem Nicks because he's a free agent. Go after another big target, because that would just be, that would complement Pierre Garcon. Because without anybody to help Garcon, it's like all you got to do is take him away on the deep down. Let's be real, Leonard Hankerson has shown sparks at times, but then again, his size isn't that great.
Right.
So you can't rely on Hankerson to develop when you want to wait all these years for him to develop, when he hasn't shown it. He's shown sparks of stuff, but he hasn't put that consistency down. And on the defense, like you said, the corners, they need to put, the Arakpo and Kerrigan where they naturally play and where, they fit best. They can't go, oh, this is what the league's doing, so let's work with this.
Definitely.
You got to, like you said, play with the natural ability that they were given. You can't put Arakpo on the offensive side of the ball and tell him to be a fullback. That's not his position.
Right.
So you got to play them where they're at.
And, there's been talk that, they should fire Shanahan, or, you're either on one side of the –
regarding the Shanahan thing, they should fire the son, Kyle Shanahan, not Mike. Give Mike another year, but fire the offensive coordinator. But the thing is, Shanahan is the head of football operations and whatnot. He makes the call, so he's not going to fire his own son. So his son will still be there until Shanahan's there.
This team looks destroyed. And I don't know if an off-season, with the same coaching staff is going to help in this situation. Albeit, you want to keep RG3 in that same system, but I mean, you saw the game last night, and you saw the game against San Francisco. Dude was getting battered.
And you saw the game against Denver where he
Battered.
got knocked down over and
And
over
he got
again.
hurt again.
You know,
I mean, luckily it wasn't serious. But
I think to the change in the coaching scheme, I don't think you want to change the coaches. Like I said, I agree. Maybe you give him one more year because we're looking at a second-year player. You know, this is not somebody that's used to coaches changing around him or been in the league long enough to know how to deal with that. If you then now start to change the coaches, they're probably going to change the scheme.
Because look at with
probably
the,
gonna bring
when,
in different players.
look at when Jason Campbell was here and DC, he had five offensive
Five
coordinators
offensive
in the
coordinators.
first 6 years.
And that's not going to help a quarterback's development. If you look at the players that have been great in this league, they've had consistency. They've had the same coach that's worked with them from maybe their first year to their fifth year, and it's helped them develop. If you now take both Shanahan's out of the equation, he has to learn a new offensive system. Yeah, they're probably going to bring in players that they like. And it's going to change a lot of, it's going to change a lot of what happens in Washington. I know they need new players, but I don't think firing the coach is the answer to that.
all right, appreciate your insight, guys. But honestly, probably just get rid of Hazlitt because like the past 3 years, well, especially the past 2, have just been horrendous. And last year during that 7-game winning streak, he patched things together. But I mean, this year you've seen how it's gone. Fletcher he looks 38 years old.
He looks his age.
He looks his age. And you're right. I mean, they need a Rackpo and Kerrigan on the line. And Cofield, underrated. He's been having a good year. And then Bowen, he's been hurt. And Riley's a star in the making. If they put him in like situations that work for him.
Right.
And hopefully they can just find a replacement for Fletcher because I mean Fletcher has been the heart and soul of this team for about 7 years. So to replace somebody like that's gonna be hard. So we got a game against the Chiefs on a Sunday, so it's not looking promising.
Nope.
So second topic today, the game of probably this year or the finish of this year.
Fantastic game.
Auburn and Alabama. Let's talk about that.
This game lived up to the hype, surpassed the hype, I believe. They said it was going to be close, and this was going to be the one team that could beat Bama. And if you look at how Auburn played, they ran the ball down Alabama's run defense, who is top 5 in the country at stopping the run.
They're top 2.
Top 2. Well, and they shut down LSU, and they were saying, LSU will give them a hard time running the ball, keep that game close. And what did Alabama do? They won by 17 and stopped the run. And made a statement that game. Well, Auburn didn't care. They ran the ball down their throat, and when they would, they threw in the little play action and kept that, Alabama defense guessing, and it helped them come back in that game and ultimately, set them up like their coach said in the fourth quarter. If it's a tie game, they're going to find a way to win. Now on the flip side of things, Alabama should not have kicked that field goal. I would say it was better off just. Okay, he has a leg for 60 yards, but when you have 10 guys, you got the guy in the back catching the ball, try and block your kick and your rush in this game, to go to the SEC championship game, you don't put that pressure on a kicker that's never kicked a game situation of, in warm-ups you can hit 60 yards easy. Well, you haven't applied the pressure and the circumstance that he was under, and Nick Saban cost himself a 3rd championship ring with that decision.
All right, here's my thing. We talked about this the last time we were on the show. We talked about how I feel about BCS rankings, and this is the reason right here. You coming into it, Bama was 1, Auburn was 4th. They're both in the SEC. If anybody knows how to play you, it's somebody that's your rival or is in your conference.
Exactly, that plays every year with the Iron Bowl.
Every year you play against each other. Now in this game, as much as I want to blame the kicker, he's been taking a lot of flack on Twitter. First of all, people have just been going at him, which is expected. He missed 2 field goals and had 1 block.
Yeah.
But also Saban there was a 4th and 1 from 30 yards where I thought he should have kicked it and he decided to go for it.
And that might have been affected because of the lack of kicking.
That's fine.
Yeah.
This is a 30-yard. This is a chip shot.
Yeah, not a 60 yards.
These are players that are potentially going to go pro. If you recruit him and he goes to Alabama, you have to trust in him. And he's a senior at that. So he's 11 of 12 coming into that game.
And he missed
it happens.
3.
It's a big stage, but it's 30 yards. That's a chip shot. And you decide to go for it, and you get stopped. And now on the last play, you decide to put in somebody who hasn't kicked the season as a freshman in this type of situation for potentially putting a national championship on the line. If you lose this game, you're dropping automatically. And you put him in to kick a 57-yard field goal. Now, you're the highest paid coach in college football. I would think you got that by making smart decisions. Here was the dumbest decision you could ever make in your entire career.
I completely agree with you, because if you would have known how your kicking game was earlier in the game, as we all saw, and the millions of plus viewers and the wherever watching this game saw, there's no kicking game. So why are you going to put a freshman out there that has no experience? Yeah, that kid probably was like, yeah, I'll make it, coach, and you believe him, which is good because you show confidence. But when it comes down to it at the end of the day and you decide to put your season, because of the way the BCS is shaped and whatnot, on the line, it boggles me that Nick Saban is, like you said, the highest paid coach, and why didn't he just take it into overtime and throw a Hail Mary? Who knows? We might have ended with a different way that they caught the game-winning touchdown on the Hail Mary, because A.J. McCarron definitely has the arm for it.
I just couldn't understand that. You passed up a 30-yarder to take a 57-yarder with that pressure on a freshman. I mean, I don't know how else we just I blame Nick Saban for this loss.
Yeah.
Because like I said, the kicker had his bad day, which happens. Every player has his bad day. But to put that kind of pressure on a freshman, and in his mind, yes, coach, I can do it. But he's thinking, oh my God, if I miss this kick, we're out the national championship.
And then if you watch the return, the Alabama offensive linemen were stunned that he's running out of the end zone that far deep, and that's the last play of the game. You should be anticipating a return, because like we saw, anything can happen.
And I also think that was another problem. I think Bama didn't expect Auburn to try to run that, because like you said, they all just looked like deer caught in front of headlights. They just paused and started chasing him after he had gotten by them. You're not about to catch your alignment, and everybody else is blocked on that play. I think Auburn were even surprised that, wait a minute, we can actually score off this play and win. You should have just took a knee, took your chances in extra time, as opposed to giving Auburn a chance to win and to come back and bite you.
Seems like Saban was going to lose, but my smartest decision for Saban would have been throw a Hail Mary. Who cares if A.J. McCarron gets intercepted? He doesn't throw 50 picks a game. He's a smart quarterback, and he's ultimately going to help lead you to possibly a victory in overtime.
And in that situation, you at least have players that can make the tackle, as opposed to having linemen chase a corner or receiver.
It was basically like a shootout, and there was a stat during the game that when they got Alabama got 150 yards rushing, they were undefeated.
It was the
Alabama
first time
had
for
lost.
everything.
Yeah. And I was like, they showed that stat for some reason. And now that we're doing this now, I was like, wow. It's just CBS was just, trying to make sure that Auburn won another, exciting game like they did against Georgia. Mm-hmm. It's just a team that's, destined to do something. And, moving off to the next subject that we have, the BCS standings. And I know you have that in front of you, and, I'll let you know, Matt. But obviously Florida State and Ohio State at the top. Then you got Auburn, Alabama, dropping to 4, Missouri, Oklahoma State, Stanford, South Carolina, Baylor, and Michigan State. And I really hope Ohio State loses, because I just want to see Auburn make it, man. This is a team that is just destined to do something.
And on that point, like I said earlier, this is why I do not like the BCS standing.
Exactly.
Auburn just beat the back-to-back champions in Alabama, but they only move up one spot. Ohio State struggled with Michigan. They were lucky,
and they've struggled all year.
And they were lucky to get that pick on that 2-point conversion, or else they wouldn't be in this top 4 right now.
It's a terrible throw.
Florida State, they did what they had to do against Florida. They demolished them.
Yeah.
But the fact that I know it's a rivalry game, because I had this argument with an instructor earlier who's an Ohio State fan, and he said, "Oh well, it's a rivalry game. They know each other," which is great and all. But if you're supposedly the number 2 team in the country, how do you struggle with a team that's not in the top 25?
Let alone probably on the outskirts of the top 50.
Well, because they're rivals.
I understand.
That's the same argument for Auburn and Alabama. They know each other. They know their tendencies.
Yeah, but if you look at the matchups, it's one team ranked versus not a ranked team, and 2 top 5 ranked teams with high caliber.
And we know SEC teams are strong.
Yeah.
This is the Big Ten we're talking about.
Well, and the Big Ten is known for, boom, 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 and some physicality mixed in. And, it's just a battle of, 2 quarterbacks that have, good arms and, that can move with their feet as well. You have Gardner from Michigan, who's...
Shout out to Gardner. He had an incredible game yesterday,
And I praised Brady
Miller.
Of course.
I praised Brady Hill going for 2 in that situation, because he knew probably going in, if he went to overtime, his team was not going to win. So he took the chance and gambled, and I don't think he deserves any backlash if there's any.
He believed in his team.
Yeah.
They're not like, unlike Alabama, they're not in a position to lose a national title. If they beat this team, it helps them. If they, who knows, they could get into a bowl game if they have
a better bowl game.
But in that situation, you believe in your team. But with Bama, that was just bad coaching.
With the way I see it is, Ohio State is going to get run over by Florida State. Florida State's defense is really good. and they've proved it with everybody that they've played. They went into Clemson, beat them. Who has Ohio State played? Non-conference. Let me ask you that. They've played Cal, Florida A&M, and another no-name school. You know, they don't play relevant non-conference games.
And, you know.
And Florida State has the statement of going into the swamp and beating Florida soundly.
Yeah.
Even though Florida didn't play well this year, that's still a statement, though.
Okay,
You know,
yeah, because I was just gonna say Florida is not a good team. Let's not make it seem like that win, automatically puts them in the top
No.
of the echelon.
they
But
were 4-7.
yeah, and they have plays where they're blocking themselves.
Yeah,
They're on a run.
but-
So
Come on, man.
And the fact that I think Florida State's going to handle Duke. Let's be real, Duke doesn't stand a chance as much as people want to believe. Duke's going to put up a fight, but it's going to be Florida State's going to win by more
yeah, I see them
points.
rolling over Duke too. I
Winning
definitely
by
see that
more
too.
points than Ohio State's going to, if they beat Michigan State, will beat.
They're not going to beat Michigan State.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's going to lose, and then
Let's go Michigan State.
All right,
yeah,
so
I got Sparty winning.
Do you guys think the Auburn and Missouri game is going to be a determining factor if it's like a blowout between Auburn and Missouri?
If Missouri can stop their run game, they have a chance.
Do you think they'll leapfrog Ohio State if Ohio State struggles?
Yes, I believe the winner of the SEC title game. Granted, it should Alabama, but with the whole BCS, that the winner of this SEC championship game, if Ohio State doesn't handle things like they should, being a top caliber team,
Handle things like they should. It's going to be a close game.
I mean, because
they got to win by at
doubt.
least 10 points to make a statement, and
By
they're
a touchdown at least.
and that's
And if they're undefeated, they're going to still make the championship game.
which they don't deserve. They don't deserve it.
I completely agree with you, but I mean that's if they win. But I'm saying they're going to lose because Michigan State's defense is just,
Exactly, it's the
has been
top
clutch.
defense in the
Has
Big
been
Ten,
clutch.
and they gave up 3 points to Minnesota. They've given up small amounts of points in the past. With this season giving up like 17
And
points.
then you can look at this little number here. So if Ohio State loses and Auburn loses, guess who makes the championship game? Bama gets back in.
And like I said, that's why I don't like this BCS title game, because they're a one-loss team, but they lost in a game that we said it was going to be close,
Yeah.
but they should win. If they're as good as everybody says they are, they should win these games, and not it shouldn't even be close. And now if Ohio State drops and Auburn drops, they all automatically go back to that second spot, which I think is not fair.
Okay, so let's predict if we had the 14 playoff, who would your top 4 teams be in the playoff system right now?
I mean, this is the thing. It always causes problems because somebody outside of the
Exactly.
elites are always going to have a problem
Yep.
with not being in there. But it shouldn't be this way where Alabama loses and they automatically get a chance if the next 2 teams in line fall.
And it was the same way last year. They lost late in the year to Texas A&M and managed to find a way back in the title game, which Notre Dame deserved to be in
I mean,
there.
can we
But
just say this BCS is rigged for the top tier schools to make it?
Yes, it is.
and they've tried twerking, tweaking it, like they've said.
Did you say twerking?
No, but they said, like they've gone in years past, trying to adjust the system to make it work, but they haven't found that right formula, and it finally took them, after years and years of failure, to realize they need a playoff system.
At least the first step is realizing your mistake. So I guess we can say that.
Man, it's going to be interesting. All right. Last topic of the show, gentlemen. So, got the NFL playoff picture. You guys got that list? So, who looks like the best team in each conference, NFC and AFC?
You want to take this one first?
Best team in the NFC, I gotta go with Seattle. They're tough to. They haven't lost at home with Russell Wilson, and if they're gonna win tonight against New Orleans, which means they have home field. And Drew Brees came out and said earlier today that playoff game in 2010 was the loudest stadium he's ever played in. And you're gonna say that Seattle's gonna be all of a sudden quieter? I don't think so. So I see Seattle being the best just because the home field advantage, and they'll go to the Super Bowl.
For me, it's a toss-up between New Orleans and Seattle. I think whoever has that home field advantage is going to take it. Like you said, Seattle's a loud place. They're 12th man. The way the stadium is even set up, it keeps the echo of the fans inside. So if you're an opposing team and you come there, you're not going to hear yourself think. In the offense, you need to be able to call audibles at the line and tell your receivers which way to go. And I think that's going to play into Seattle's hand. Now, if New Orleans wins, they're undefeated also in their dome.
Yeah,
they haven't lost it. And
that dome is just as loud.
It's just as loud. And, of course, the fans are going to be loud when you're on offense, and they're going to be quiet when New Orleans is on offense. So I think if whoever wins this game is the better team for me in the East. Like, Seattle's defense is crazy, and Russell Wilson and those boys, they're getting
But
it
we're
done.
going to have to see when Browner is subjected to possibly a 1-year suspension, which would start immediately.
And that's, for me, that's the wild card right there.
Yeah.
Because having Brown on one side and Richard Sherman on the other side, it does a lot for Seattle's defense because their corners can cover
Yeah.
as well as let their front seven get after you.
Yeah.
So now if you don't have one shutdown corner on one side, that's somewhere. And we know the New Orleans receivers, they can catch the ball.
And they're physical, too.
And they're physical. You got Colston, you got Meacham.
So, gentlemen, I have to go with my pick from last week. So, just go down the list of teams. So, Seattle, obviously got Browner. Harvin's out tonight. And you don't know what to expect from that team. Lost to St. Louis. You got New Orleans, who offensively can compete with anybody in the league. Everybody knows that. But defensively, that's a wild card, even though they've been playing very decent. Detroit, same thing. Dallas, yeah. And to go with my boys from Carolina, North Carolina, the Carolina Panthers. That's the best team because I have to pick the hottest team in the NFL right now. And I have to.
Going into the playoffs is a different season. Once you get in, it's one game.
And you're done.
I understand.
And
No,
look back
I'm
in-
agreeing with you. I'm
No, no,
agreeing
no.
with you. Although I picked New Orleans and Seattle as the best team, it's sometimes better to be that underdog because this is Cam Newton's third year. He's
Yeah.
finally getting it right. He's reading the offense. He's not trying to do it all by himself. He's trusting his teammates.
But if you look at the last time Carolina was hot like this, back in 08 or 09, they went in and lost the first round to Arizona, and then Arizona went
Second
on
round,
to
yeah,
win.
got smashed.
Second round, yeah.
this
Be
is
the
a
first round
what
bye.
have you done for me lately league. Nobody cares about what happened then. We're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And as
But
you said,
history
they're
does
hot.
tend to repeat itself, though, as people say.
Then that would mean Peyton's going to fail in the playoffs. That's what
Which
that means.
it's been proven that he has. Look at his playoff record.
Cincinnati, that means Cincinnati's going to choke.
Cincinnati tends to be a one-and-done team anyway.
If we're going off of that, then Baltimore's going to win again.
And,
If we're going off history
Well,
and they find a way to win.
yeah, I mean, defensively, they've been lights out except for, the Steelers game, in which, that was an exciting game. And, we didn't even go over AFC, did we?
Yeah,
Best team.
Wait,
I'm going to have to go.
What's up?
I'm going to have to go with the AFC side. And I'm going to have to
Be polite.
agree with what you said last week when I believe you picked Tom Brady in New England to beat Carolina.
Who did it?
Oh,
Get
who's
Tom.
right? No,
Yeah.
y'all did. Both of y'all did. So,
I
yes.
picked Carolina.
No, you didn't. Anyway.
Yeah, I did.
But
But anyway,
back to the tape.
so New England, I'm going to have to go with Tom Brady in New England. And then second would have to be Peyton just because Tom Brady always has Peyton's number no matter what the situation is we saw earlier this year. And New England's, finding ways to win with basically
Next
no
to
supporting cast.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I sat at this table last time and I said Brady is Brady. And, I was wrong that night.
Well, actually, the refs were the refs, so we'll let you
we
off
can
with that.
say that about
We'll
anybody.
let
Yeah.
you off with that.
But I said Brady is Brady, and this is the reason why. When it comes to the playoffs, what quarterback in this AFC would you rather have on your roster right now?
Tom Brady.
Alex Smith, no, I'm just playing. Tom
And
Brady.
that's the thing. Regardless of who's around him, what receivers he has, because let's be honest, right now, Danny Amendola hasn't really played the whole season. He's played a couple of games, but
And
he
Gronk hasn't played
he
the
hasn't
whole
been
year
as
either.
big as we thought he was going to be, replacing Wes Welker. And like you said, Gronk just came back, and Gronk is Gronk, obviously.
Vereen came back too.
Vereen came back too, but he hasn't had his offensive weapons around him the whole season, and yet look at where they are. They're 9-3 with a
That's
chance to
crazy.
catch Denver for home field advantage. They've already beaten Denver,
Yeah.
just last week or the week before. And like I said, having Tom Brady on your roster automatically puts you above everybody else because he has next to nothing. He doesn't have the weapons that Peyton has, but yet they're one game out of first place in the whole of AFC.
Yeah, I have to give it to Belichick though. With that defense, losing Will Fork and then having all them dudes out at one time, even though to come back except for Will Fork is out for the year. And that Texans game was a dicey one yesterday, and they were able to hold defensively. They came through when they had to, and you're right. Having a dude like Tom Brady, all you gotta do is say, Tom, go out there, win
Take
this
us to the
game for me."
promised land.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's proven he can do it time and time again, regardless of who he has. He had an
And if
aging
you-
Randy Moss, and he made him a superstar.
This is my argument for Denver, though. We haven't seen, we've seen their, potential, but we haven't seen their full potential. Because, Thomas has been getting the looks, well, both Thomases, Demarius and Julius. And Julius was out yesterday. And Welker, haven't heard much from him. So if they find a way to get him involved, and then they bring Julius Thomas back,
And
then
Eric
they
Decker.
and then they start getting them 4. Yeah, especially Decker had 4 TDs yesterday, and if they get all them cogs working and moving, but I mean
Okay, here's my one
defensively they scare
concern.
me. Defensively they scare me. But go ahead, Matt.
One concern I have for this playoff run with Denver is Denver's a cold city, and we've looked at Peyton Manning's numbers in cold weather games. It's not impressive. It's horrible.
And that's why I think it's important that they keep. I don't want to say home field advantage because, cold weather.
yeah.
It's still cold weather. But going.
But no
to
matter
New
where they
England-
go, and look at the top, there's no dome team except for Indianapolis, and Indianapolis is going to grab home field advantage. So they don't have to worry about going to a nice, kind of neutral, kind of as close as a neutral site as you can get with Indianapolis. So Peyton Manning's going to have to learn to play in the cold, and I don't know if that's why he chose Denver or
Yeah,
when he
that-
could have gone to San Francisco and,
That didn't make any sense to me.
Sonny
Why
Kelly.
he chose-
Yeah,
Yeah, he could have been in, Colin Kaepernick might not have been a name at this point because, if Payne would have gone to San Francisco, but that's besides the point. But looking at this, New England's cold in January, Cincinnati's cold, KC's cold. So
I don't know why he
Well,
chose the
with this
AFC.
weather, you never know. It might be
Baltimore's
like
cold,
clear
like,
40s.
but he's
I just think he has to not listen. This type of things that we're saying where he's struggling in cold weather, you just have to put that out of his mind and just play his game. Yesterday they played great. Decker had 4 touchdowns. I think he threw for 5. He just has to put that out of his mind and just go with it. Like I said, he struggled against Brady. I'm not gonna say Brady Peyton, but he struggled against him. But you only get one chance in this playoffs. If you mess it up, that stigma's gonna follow him. He's a regular season player, not a playoff quarterback.
And getting back to that one dome team that's on the list there for the AFC, Indianapolis has looked terrible. Terrible in Spanish. And they pretty much clinched the division yesterday, which I mean is a good thing, but their division is terrible. Terrible. I mean, Jacksonville has turned it on the last couple of weeks, but Jacksonville.
Yeah.
And then you have Houston,
who's lost
abysmal.
10 straight.
10 straight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2-10 on the season.
10.
2-10.
Where the Redskins about to be. And then you got Tennessee, who has been a surprise, but losing Jake Locker was huge.
I heard their playoff chances because Ryan Fitzgerald turns the ball. Fitzpatrick,
Yeah.
not Fitzgerald,
Yeah.
but Fitzpatrick turns the ball over too much, and that's cost them games. Look at it. He threw 2 picks yesterday. He's thrown like 3 the week before, and that's hurt Tennessee. I don't know. Ever since that big signing he got in Buffalo with that extension, he's gone downhill.
Terrible.
So,
Yeah, what I expected from Indianapolis this year, I haven't gotten. They got the 8 wins, but they've been, like you said, they've been struggling as of late. And I don't know if that's the case of injuries or.
I think a big part of it is Reggie Wayne.
And I feel like that was his security blanket.
Yeah.
Because as a receiver that's been there, he's been through the Peyton era, and he knows what it takes. He's been to the Super Bowl and won and lost, but I just feel like that's the problem. He doesn't have that security blanket to go to. And hopefully we'll see. We'll see if they get it done. But right now it's not looking too good. They're limping into the playoffs, so I don't know what's that going to hold for them.
All right, real quick. Picks for tonight.
Seattle, at home.
New Orleans, I have the kicker in my fantasy.
I would pick New Orleans too because I have their kicker on my fantasy team too, but I'm going Seattle.
Okay.
So should be interesting tonight. And well, I mean, let's talk. Yeah, and that's all the time that we have for tonight. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back next semester. For David, I'm David Cabrera.
Matthew Forney.
And I'm Tunde Banjo.
Good night, everybody.